A wounded animal runs into the woods alone. It rarely seeks out help. If anyone kindly tries to help it, it will often snarl, hiss, scratch, bite. A wounded animal lashes out because of fear and pain. I have never been anything but wild, caged at best, but never tamed. I do not know how to seek help for my wounds. I am bleeding. Don't let me bleed on you. Don't get too close. I might forget the shackles I refuse to wear and claw at you. People who want to help bring things like disinfectant and needles. You say help, but that looks like more pain to me. Get away. Don't touch it. Let me lick my wounds in solitude and trust the medicine of the wild things. I don't know how to be held or helped in pain. I am much too wild for that. So don't get too close if you see me bleeding. I was born with fangs and claws, and no one could ever tame me. That is a piece that I wrote entitled Wounded Animal, and it is an introduction for our topic today, which is about patience and trauma. Hi, welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Naomi, and this is Mosaic in Progress. So, one of the most difficult things about healing from trauma is learning to trust in goodness and believing that maybe not everyone is out to get you, that not everything is a setup. I remember as a child when I would have fantasies about everything working out or whatever, I wouldn't even trust in my own fantasies. I distinctly remember that like, oh, what if this person is lying? In my own mind, something that I was making up, I felt maybe it wasn't trustworthy. And there is a very distinct pain that comes with not being able to trust that anything could work out good, to the point that your own mind doesn't even trust a fantasy that you created, because someone might be deceiving you, someone might be tricking you. It's all going to fall apart. And that's how I have always felt truly about everything. It's all going to fall apart. Just wait. It's all going to fall apart. And learning, science really bolstered that for me, because entropy is a law, and that everything goes from a state of order to a state of disorder, and just wait, it's all going to fall apart. Just wait. It'll happen eventually. And is a back and forth I have with my husband a lot, because my husband is probably the most hopeful person I've ever met in my life. Against all odds, against all evidence to the contrary, he always believes that everything's going to work out. And I love that. I love that about him. I love that for him. I can't relate. I have been very much the opposite of that. And it's very interesting for a hopeful person and a nihilistic person to be married to each other and to be going through difficult times, because I have all the reasons why everything is going to fall apart and all of the ways that it will. And he has blind hope that everything will work out just because it has to. And the the back and forth that we have about these things gets very comical sometimes, of me just like, no, it's definitely going to fall apart. Everything always falls apart. And he's like, no, everything actually always works out. And more, he is proving me wrong, which I hate. I mean, I like that things work out, but I do hate being proven wrong. But in this case, it's not as much of a bad thing. And I think if you study tarot at all, going off in a completely left field direction with this episode, if you study tarot at all and you study the Fool and what that represents, then you see the dichotomy of a hope within the Fool, because the Fool is without doubt very hopeful. He's full of optimism. He's starting off on a journey. He is fully confident that it's going to work out for him. And he's got his little pack. He's got a flower in his hand. He's got his dog with him. But one of the things about the Fool is that he's also completely oblivious to reality. He's about to walk off a cliff. And he does have a little dog there that's trying to warn him and trying to say, hey, maybe don't walk off the cliff, my dude. You're so happy, you're not even paying attention to where you're walking. And the nihilist in me always focuses on that aspect of the Fool, more so than the aspect of hope and optimism. It is the naivety and the danger of naivety. But I think a lot when it comes to the aspect of healing trauma. I think so much about the people who put me through the trauma that made me so nihilistic. And I have to, my stubbornness and spiteful nature kind of rears up and says, well, you can't let them win. You can't let them win. That's what they want. They want you to be nihilistic and small and pessimistic and never strike out on a journey, never hope that things could get better, to just keep living within the small box. And I can't let that happen. I can't let the trauma win. I can't let the people who hurt me win over me. And especially as I consider the fact that they are the way that they are because someone hurt them, and it rings true forever and ever. Hurt people hurt people. If you don't heal the hurt that you have been dealt, then you will become one of those people. Living within the confines of trauma prevents you from living a full life and from loving fully. And sometimes, it becomes difficult figuring out how to process trauma. Especially when you're talking in very abstract terms of just this kind of vague, I'm worried about everything. And it's like, well, where is this coming from? And I think somatic therapies really help with that a lot. Like, okay, well, where do you feel it? What sensations are you having in your body now, and where are those sensations? Finding where it's happening in your body can be a really helpful tool for figuring out how to process very ambiguous feelings like that. Recognizing the impact that your trauma had on you. One of the things that I've recently reflected on is that I had constant feedback from my abusers, my parents. It was relentless, and it was, some negative feedback. It was some positive feedback, but I was always hearing from them what they thought about what I was doing, what I was saying, what I was wearing, how my facial expression was, how my tone of voice was, how I laughed, if I laughed, etc., etc., etc. There was not an aspect of my life that did not get feedback, ever. It was constant. And I didn't realize that until literally a couple of weeks ago. And realizing how often that was happening and why that gives me so much anxiety now when I'm not getting feedback was just groundbreaking for me. It completely blew my mind that to realize I'm constantly seeking feedback. I'm listening for it because I was conditioned to do that. There was never anything that did not get feedback. Recognizing that I don't need someone else to tell me what they think of my words, my thoughts, my actions, my style, my anything for it to be okay. Like I'm always looking for either the approval or the fight. That plays so much into the constant searching for approval of others that happens with a lot of survivors of abuse. Because if you're always getting feedback and you never have the opportunity to decide for yourself what you think of your own actions, words, style, whatever, that it has to be measured through someone else's feedback, it's very difficult to enter into an ideology where other people's opinions don't matter. But I realized that I've come a lot farther with that than I thought I had, even despite the fact that I didn't realize the constant feedback thing until a few weeks ago. Because for some reason on my personal Instagram account, my comments on Instagram have been absolutely blowing up. It's crazy to me. Like I made one comment on a video, it's got like 70,000 likes on it, and people, like, it was almost a month ago and people are continuing to comment on it. That's just one example. I don't know what I did, how I angered or pleased the algorithm that this is happening, but it's been crazy. And the craziest thing about it is that the people who are commenting back to me and the people who are giving this feedback to me about whatever it was that I said, almost overwhelmingly, like an overwhelming majority, it's the ones who disagree with me. They have to tell me that I'm ugly. And a little over a year ago, I think it was, my husband told me that I was built like a Renaissance goddess. And ever since he told me that, no one can tell me anything about my appearance. I'm just like, I don't care. It's, you get these like negative tapes in your head. Probably dating myself with calling it tapes. But these negative voices in your head that just repeat over and over and over again. And that one statement silenced almost every single one that I have ever heard from myself or anyone else. Whenever I see myself now, that's what I hear in my head, is him saying that. Someone who I've never met, who doesn't even really know what I look like, they can see a teeny tiny picture of my face on Instagram telling me that I'm ugly. That's laughable to me because, number one, even if you did actually look at my picture and thought I was ugly, so what? I don't care. I don't even know you. Why do I care if you think I'm ugly? And number two, you're that small of a person and that intellectually devoid that you have to just tell me that I'm ugly as a response to you not liking what I said. Like, you couldn't come up with anything better than just, you're ugly. Like, why do I care? And why am I talking about this? Because there was a time in my life, not that long ago, honestly, that would have devastated me. Absolutely devastated me. To have all these random people on the internet telling me that I was ugly. It would have fucked with my self-esteem. It would have made me feel terrible about myself. I would have probably taken down my comment or started arguing back and forth with them or tried to say something even meaner to them. And I don't care now. Like, it's honestly funny to me that so many people were so upset about my comment. And for the record, the comment that I'm specifically referring to, it was a layered reaction video. So there was a video of this woman being approached by a man in a train station. She was doing like an outfit of the day video, and he passed by and he was like, "Oh, your outfit's really cute." And she was like, "Oh, thank you. That's so nice. I was just recording." And he walks on, and this man is doing a reaction to it. And he's like, "Oh, that's so nice. Just a wholesome interaction." But the video that he's reacting to is a reaction from like an alpha podcast bro. And then that guy comes in and he's like, "Oh, if only he hadn't been insecure, he could have like stopped and asked for her number." And he goes into all this really ridiculous stuff. But one of the things that he says is, even when they reject you, women like to be approached. He didn't say women. He said something much more derogatory. But that was what I responded to. I quoted, women like to be approached. And I was like, nah, don't approach me ever. I do not like being approached in public by strangers, period. But especially strange men. I don't trust you. If we are out in public, I don't know you. I don't trust you automatically. You're a man. You're not trustworthy. You walk up to me immediately. I'm on the defensive. I'm scared. Not like scared, but like, I don't trust you. I'm wondering what you're wanting from me, what you're about to do. I don't trust interactions from strange men in public, period, full stop, period. Like, that's without exception. There is nothing that you can do as a man in public to approach me, not knowing me, and make me feel safe. I am going to immediately wonder what you're trying to do to me, because that is the reality that men have created, period. Men have created that reality. And no, it's not all men, but enough of you have done it, and the rest of you have remained silent about it, or very, very quiet, that's reality now. Men aren't trustworthy. And even, it keeps being talked about all the time that these men will say, oh, it's not all men, but they'll tell their daughters, don't dress like that because boys only want one thing. And, oh, don't wear that around your uncle because it's not safe to wear that around your uncle. He's, weird or whatever. And you get all these warnings from these men in your life. And then they're like, oh, it's not all men. But isn't it though? It's enough that you think that you need to warn us about all of them to not trust them. It's enough that you promote it as part of our culture as girls and women to not trust men. But then you tell us that we're crazy when we say we don't trust men or anything of that nature. And I'm getting a little off topic here, but it's a huge problem in society, and it's one that should be addressed, is that if you are silent about violence and oppression, then you are perceived as part of the problem. And that is regardless of what your race, your gender, your anything is. If you see other people being hurt, especially if it's by your demographic of people, and you're quiet about it, you are perceived as part of the problem. And to be clear, you are part of the problem because you are allowing those people to go unchecked. You're saying, no, you're still welcome, to the barbecue. You're still welcome to the family dinner, whatever. We still love you. And there's a huge difference between love and acceptance of bad behavior. And I think people really don't understand the difference between that. Just like people really don't understand forgiveness and what all that implies. And that's another topic for another podcast for another day. I feel like I may have done a podcast on forgiveness. I feel like I did. If I haven't, I'm just going to add it to the list. We'll have a nice little chat about it soon. But if you're not speaking out against the problem, you are a part of the problem. Period. Speaking of internet bullies, I keep seeing this thing coming from so many who want to act like they're really tough, and they're like, oh, I guess you just needed your safe space. I guess you just needed your safe space. And it's become this like hackneyed response when people call out bad behavior, like, hey, this is offensive. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you needed a safe space. Especially when it comes to like calling out abuse. I've noticed it even more so with that, when you're like, hey, it's really offensive to make jokes about domestic violence. Hey, it's really triggering for a lot of people to make jokes about domestic violence, or to like, there's a creator that I follow who's normally very funny. He reposted a video of a grown man beating his mother. He was slapping her, and there was nothing that showed like in the caption or anything about like what the video was about. It was just like kind of shock value. And because this content creator is typically very nice. I just commented, I think this probably needs a trigger warning on it. And boy, did people get really mad at me for that. And they were telling me, oh, I did go back to your safe space, and oh, you're just so offended over everything. And I'm like, no, this is like actually triggering for people who have been through trauma to like see and hear this, and maybe they might choose to not interact with the, not watch the video if they knew what it was that they were watching up front. And there's a dehumanization that happens with online interactions. I see it a lot. Whether you're talking about abuse or issues with racism or issues with sexism or trauma or really anything. And my husband and I had this discussion about MySpace and how there was like this rash for a while, I feel like, when MySpace came out, of people like live streaming their suicides. And the people who were like following them or commenting or whatever were just like brutally cruel, just like, yeah, do it, and encouraging them to do it. And we had this discussion also about porn and the effect that it has on people's psyche, people who regularly consume it. And I said, I think that there is this like detachment from reality that happens when we look at our screen, there where we just say, that's not real. It's not a real person. We got so used to movies and TV and this idea that if you're looking at it on a screen, it's not real. And then we brought these other screens into, you know, our living room or our office or whatever, and then now we've got them that we just carry around in our pockets all the time, or our hands, a lot of us. You see something on the screen and you detach from it, that it's not real. We've convinced ourselves that the people behind the screens are not real. And, you know, with the rise of AI, quite a lot of times that is true. But we do it to such a degree that we've lost our humanity, that we say the most cruel things, dig deep down into our basest nature, and we say all of the worst things to people who we've never met, or in some cases, people who we have met. We're just not interacting with them face to face at this point. It becomes such a cruelty as in normal in the majority of our lives. Like, we're just gonna say hateful things to these people, dehumanize them. And this is a thing that I police quite a bit on my personal Facebook page, is laugh reacting to someone's serious comment. Like, you're having a discussion about, I don't know, politics, religion, whatever. And in a back and forth serious discussion, someone just decides to laugh react a comment. That is the equivalent of laughing in someone's face. Most people won't do that in the middle of a serious discussion. I'm not saying all, but the majority of people would not be that disrespectful, because society dictates that there is a level of respect that is due when you're interacting with a person. But people will do it online so fast with absolutely zero regard to the impact of that action. And I used to be a person who was like that. Now, we didn't have the laugh react back in the day when I was like that, but I was definitely the kind of person who just, I was going to get my point across, and I don't care how much I hurt your feelings in the doing of it. And I would say things like that a lot, like, your feelings aren't important to me, the truth is important to me. And I thought I was very badass for saying something like that. That I spent a good portion of my life, especially when I was working in politics, just being hateful to people. Because a big part of my job when I was working in politics was moderating social media accounts and interacting with people on social media for boosting posts and things like that. And I just had this idea that, if I piss somebody off, cool, they're going to keep commenting back and forth. It's going to start an argument. Well, that's going to get more visibility for the post. I didn't care. I didn't care about the person behind the screen. I had a mission, and that was all that was important to me. It's really weird for me to think back on that time of my life because it was such an adaptive personality. It was not who I was at my core. It was not anyone who I had ever been. It was a personality that I adopted that was, truthfully, it was based off of my dad and his personality. I created this persona to survive, and I was very type A, and I was very cruel, and I was extremely detached. And I hurt a lot of people. And it's really hard for me to look back on that time in my life and reconcile it with that person was me. It wasn't me. It was a created persona, but I was the person who made those choices, who decided to create that persona, who said those words and did those things. And I think as we look at others who are maybe acting in the same way, to have a level of compassion for them. And that's not to say let them just run over you and keep hurting you. But people don't become cruel just for the sake of being cruel. Hurt people hurt people. There is no hurt in the world that did not come from a previous hurt at this point in life. That people think they need to protect themselves, or people get a false idea about how the world works, usually given to them from someone else, or adapted based on how someone else treated them. And patience plays into that a lot. We have to have patience with ourselves as we're healing from trauma. But we also have to have patience with other people. And again, I'm not saying, just stand there and let someone beat you up. But when we are interacting with people in general, you have two options, only two. You can accept that someone is who they are and allow them to make their decisions and accept that those are their decisions to make. And if those decisions, whatever they are, their words, their actions, whatever, seem to be problematic, you can speak to them, appeal to their human nature, appeal to the relationship, whatever. You can try to reason with them and accept that they may not see your way of thinking. Or you can try to control and dominate them. Those are your only options when interacting with other people in society, in personal relationships, whatever. You can either accept it that they are autonomous and allow them to be themselves and attempt communication if there's conflict or problems, or you can try to control them. I don't recommend the latter because that's not why we're here. We're not here to control other people, despite what many, many parents think about their children. Why do I bring that up? Because whether it's someone you're in a relationship, whatever that relationship is, or a coworker, or a boss, or someone who you happen to know who thinks differently than you do, has different politics from you, whatever, your options are either try to communicate with them or control them in order to, obviously maintaining that relationship, but that also applies to society as a whole, because I hear so many liberals, especially white liberals, saying they're not going to talk to anybody who's MAGA anymore. Well, what's your option then? What's your option? Are you going to try to control them? Because in a society where there's two opposing viewpoints, that option, those two options are the same. Either you are going to communicate or you're going to try to control them. And I don't see any moves to do the latter. So where are you going with this? I think we have lost our ability to have patience with people and to see people as individuals. We stereotype people so much. We're so quick to pigeonhole them into, oh, you're one of those people. regardless of who or what those people are, that we don't have conversations with people as individuals. I think it's so funny how often I go back to the Bible these days, but I mean, you look at Jesus and how he interacted with people. He didn't go meet with Zacchaeus and call him a tax collector. He was a tax collector. He had a discussion with him about it later on. He didn't meet the woman at the well and call her a Samaritan, a backslider. He had a conversation with her about things. But I think we have lost the ability to see people, as individuals, and have conversations with them about things that are problematic. We've lost our ability to be patient with people because we're not even patient with ourselves. And I do think that phones or cell phones have really played a big part in that. We expect immediate responses. We expect deliveries within 2 days. We expect everything to be instantaneous, including people changing or changing their minds. We can't sit and wait and be patient and watch things unfold and nurture a relationship or nurture an unfolding and a development. We want it to be instantaneous. One conversation, and not even a full conversation, half a conversation, you immediately have my viewpoint, or this idea that, well, if they know everything that I know, this inability. It's a very egocentric mindset, this inability to realize that there are people who have different experiences than you and different lives than you, and may not have been exposed to the same information that you were, may not have been exposed to the same experiences that you were. And we don't have any patience for the fact that people don't see our way of thinking, and so we just write them off. I'm not even going to talk to them. I'm not going to waste my time. Like people are a waste of time. We dehumanize them, and it's so frustrating to see from people who claim to be anti-fascist, because that's such a fascist viewpoint of just like, oh, these people aren't like me. Let's get rid of them. Let's not even talk to them. They're useless. And it's, what is the point of being anti-fascist if you're not going to be human? I mean, truly, what's the point? If you're not going to be human, if you're not going to allow space for everyone, including the ignorant people who need patience and education and humanity, what's the point? We heal society by healing ourselves, and we heal ourselves with patience and love and hope, because we don't have to be wounded animals running off into the woods alone and hoping that if we lick our wound enough, it won't get infected. We can allow others in, even if it seems scary. We can allow for the goodness, including allowing for the goodness of other people, especially in allowing for the goodness of other people, especially in those who we don't think are good, who we don't trust, because society isn't going to change with us isolating ourselves from each other. I realize this was a bit all over the place as an episode, but I hope that it was beneficial to you. I hope you enjoyed it, you got something from it, and I hope you will join me all next week as we both continue to work on our Mosaic in Progress. Please remember to follow me wherever you follow podcasts. If you're on social media, look me up, Mosaic in Progress. You can find all my links at linktree.com/Mosaic in Progress. And I'd love it if you followed me on Patreon. That one again, Mosaic in Progress. It's the same name everywhere. It makes it easy. I hope you all have a wonderful week. I love you all so much.